Before I get started, I wanted to give whoever's listening a little bit of insight on what this podcast is about. Almost everyone has gone through a breakup of some sort, whether that be a breakup with an ex-partner or an ex-friend. Breakups are obviously devastating and hard, but they shape us into the people that we are today. My hope for this podcast is to make you realize that you aren't alone when it comes to going through a breakup. You can get through it, and hopefully learn something from it at the end of the day. This is Obliterate Podcast. I'm your host, Christine Nikolic. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or feelings about me, my guest, or just the podcast in general, feel free to email me at obliteratepodcast@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at obliteratepodcast. My guest today is Nicki. She's an editor living in Houston. In this episode, Nicki talks about her time living in Chicago, coming out to her parents, and what she learned from losing someone she truly loved. This is Nicki and the Ex-Girlfriend. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Tell me about yourself. What do you do for a living? Where are you from? All that jazz.
Well, I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm a journalist. I went to college in Chicago. I went to Northwestern University, and I stayed up in the Chicago area for about 3 years after graduating, working in community newspapers. And then I moved back home to Houston about 4 years ago because my whole family's here.
So what are you doing in Houston now?
I'm a journalist. I just started a new job, actually, about 3 weeks ago. I'm now the managing editor, Cron.com, which is like the free website alternative to the Houston Chronicle, our daily newspaper. We're in the middle of a revamp right now. We're kind of trying to separate ourselves from the Houston Chronicle and have our own brand and identity. Yeah, so it's nice to have a job again. And also, yeah, it's really weird to start a new job remotely. Like, you don't go in and shake everyone's hands and go out to lunch for that first day. It's like super weird to meet everyone on Zoom.
No, I get that. Well, I'm sorry you lost your job, but I'm happy for you that you found something pretty quickly. So who are you talking about today?
So I'm talking about my very first girlfriend who broke up with me to run off to become an organic vegetable farmer in Oregon.
Oh, wow. Okay. How did you meet her?
So this is a very lesbian story, full of stereotypes. If you couldn't tell from the organic vegetable thing. We met in college. We were actually roommates our sophomore year of college. So we U-hauled before we even knew we were gay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we actually lived in the same dorm freshman year, but we didn't really know each other because we lived on different floors. And then I really needed a roommate sophomore year, and she did too. And we had kind of met each other at some dorm things, and we became friends on Facebook. And then one day I was like, I really need a roommate. We need to figure out I need to figure out my housing situation for next year. So I messaged her on Facebook and I was like, hey, are you looking for a roommate for next year? And she was like, yeah, I am actually. And I was like, hey, do you want to be roommates with me? And she was like, sure. So we signed up to live together with two of our other friends in the same dorm. And then when we started living together sophomore year of college, we became really fast friends. We just instantly hit it off. And I didn't know I was gay at the time. I thought I was dating guys, or I dated one guy sophomore year for 6 weeks. And really didn't want to, I should have known that I didn't want to date him because I wanted to spend all my time with her, with my roommate, and not with him. We just were really close, and I'm a very affectionate, huggy person. So we would cuddle on our beds and like get into like tickle fights. It sounds like so lame. Looking back. And then like one night, it was like right after literally the day after we had signed a lease to move into an apartment together, like the next year, junior year, with like 2 other women. I like decided to make out with her. I was completely sober, by the way, and I was supposed to be studying for a midterm the next day, but I did not do much studying that night. I was just like, let's make out. And then like suddenly we were dating and in love.
Did she know she was gay before the makeout session happened?
No, but she played softball for like a really long time. I've only dated softball players. I have a whole joke about that. I've dated a left fielder, a pitcher, and a catcher. I've yet to date other positions. I'm sure that will happen. But no, she didn't know she was gay. She had never dated anyone. She had never even like kissed anyone. I was her first like everything. I knew that I was her first like kiss, first whatever. I remember that night I was like, oh, is this weird? Like, what does this mean? And she was like, I think it just means we're in college, which was really funny. Yeah. And then we lived together for the entirety of our relationship, which is very, and we were together for 5 years. So that's really interesting. We lived with people for most of our relationship actually too.
It sounds like your whole college experience was her.
Yeah. A lot of it was her.
When did you guys finally establish that you were a couple and it wasn't just a college thing?
I think like 6 weeks into it. So we were just like making out for like a while. It was just like a very physical relationship. And then, and we went on dates, but like, I don't even know if we like called it dates or called it dating. But I just like right before spring break of that year, I just was like, I'm in love with you. I love you. I want to be with you. And she said, I love you too. So I wasn't out to my parents. I didn't come out to them until after college. And she didn't tell her parents for like a year or two. So we had a 2-bedroom apartment, and with 4 women in it. And so, you know, we each shared rooms, with one other person. So I had shared a room with another girl, and she was supposed to share a room with another girl. But then like halfway through the year, we just kind of like ended up sharing a room.
So did your parents meet her, I'm guessing? Because like you were living with her and you guys were really good friends.
Yeah, and they like knew who she was, and they knew that we were roommates. And yeah, so they met her several times, especially when they were helping us move in and out of the dorm and into an apartment and stuff.
Was it hard to keep that a secret from them?
Yes and no. Yes, because like they were in Houston and I was in Chicago, so it was pretty easy to like, you know, not have them visit me and, you know, not know what's going on. But it was also really hard because I'm like a very open person, and like all of my friends knew, and this is a person who I really loved and lived with and like spent all my time with. And it was really hard. It was really emotionally, it really wore on me to like keep it a secret, like that we were going on dates or spending time with each other, you know, whatever, or that I was in love with someone or that I was dating someone. And then like my parents knew, but they like didn't know. And they're very conservative and very Catholic. So I knew that they were not going to have a good reaction to it. So I just started eliminating her from just conversations, even though they like knew that she was probably going to dinner with me or like whatever. It was just weird because like I knew they knew because my mom was like not happy every time I brought up her name. And yeah, she would get either like really quiet or just like really, you could just like tell that she knew.
Do you mind me asking how they reacted when they found out that you were gay?
So I actually sent them a letter. I came out to them in a letter because I was too afraid to do it in person, and I was in Chicago still. I waited until after college. They didn't react great. My mom said, so since I sent them a letter, they both sent me letters back, but my mom didn't talk to me for 6 weeks. She sent me this like really bad letter that started with "you broke my heart," and then it somehow got worse as the letter went on. So it was really bad. My dad's letter was like a little nicer, and his came first. My parents are married to each other. They just sent separate letters for some reason. Yeah, my dad's letter was like kind of like grappling with it. He was like, I don't understand. Like, he basically was just like, I don't understand. And I also know some people who like were gay, but then they ended up marrying, like, they ended up with like an opposite sex partner. And like, I know other people who were like straight, but then ended up marrying like a gay partner, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you just know like a lot of bisexual people, Dad. Like, yeah. Is what this letter is telling me. It's been like 7 years since I came out to them, and we don't really like acknowledge it. It's a whole thing. My dad is much more supportive than my mom.
Well, I'm sorry you're dealing with that still. Hopefully they'll eventually come around.
I hope so too.
What were some of your favorite memories with your ex-girlfriend?
Everything about her. I mean, we were together for so long. That's like 20% of my life. Every time I think about college, like, she pops up because we spent so much time, because we lived together for like most of college, and we were together for most of college, and then like starting our lives together. She's really tied up with like literally like the first half of my 20s. I really loved I just really loved like everything about her. Like, she's a very like quiet, shy, reserved person, like very socially anxious, but like she really opened up to me, and we could just like talk about anything. I thought she was really funny and really witty, and we just made each other laugh like all the time. And we just like, we went through like, you know, we like grew up together practically. Like, we grew into people. I was just like so in love with her. We were like so in love. I don't know how to like describe it other than like it was very like poetic. Like, I actually wrote poetry about her.
I feel like it just sounds like you guys had a really great relationship, and that's amazing. I feel like a lot of people I talk to, they just don't say anything positive about their ex-partner, and it just seems like you have really fond memories, which I think is great.
I just really loved spending like I never got tired of her, you know? I really loved spending every day with her.
What happened after college?
So we moved into an apartment in Andersonville together with another friend of ours who had lived with us in the dorm and also in that apartment junior year of college. So a good friend of ours. And it was really funny because we always named our apartments. And our friend was when we were trying to make plans after graduation, I was like, hey, like, I texted this friend and I was like, hey, do you want to live with me? And she was like, well, I don't want to get up all in your domestic grill. And I was like, well, that's the name of the apartment now. So we called it the Domestic Grill, or the Grill for short, which is like very silly. And we lived there for 2 years, and I worked at the community newspaper, and she didn't really know what she wanted to do with her life. She was an anthropology major. She was interested in like helping people and nonprofit work. She was kind of not really sure what she wanted to do.
So then why did your relationship end? Like, what happened?
That is a good question, Christine. It seemed like, so we were together for 5 years. She broke up with me actually like a month before our 5-year anniversary, but 4 years and 11 months doesn't sound as good. But we never fought. Like, the most we ever fought was I started a dumb fight once where she was a vegetarian, and I was like, I'll break up with you if you turn vegan. And it was just like a really dumb fight. But we never really fought or like disagreed about anything in like year 4 of our relationship. She just like didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. So she had this like nonprofit job, and she eventually moved to another job that she liked more, but it was a temporary job. It like was going to end. It was only like a 6-month job. But eventually that ended, and we had moved into another apartment together, just the two of us. And things were kind of weird between us. I could like sense that she was, I don't know, maybe not feeling it as much as I was, but I just chalked it up to, oh, this is like a rough patch. We'll work through it. She's just not sure what she wants to do with her life right now, and her job is ending, and like things are stressful. But I remember she like sat me down like right like a week before we were supposed to move into this new place, and she said something like she was talking about it with her therapist and her mom, and she just wasn't feeling it anymore. Like I don't really remember exactly what she said. I think I blocked it out, but it was just like, oh God, like what is happening? It like really freaked me out, and I talked about it with some friends, but then like nothing happened. Like we didn't break up. It just seemed like she just wasn't into it anymore. And then she also told me that since she had a lower sex drive than I did, that I could go sleep with other people if I wanted to. And like, I did not want to do that. I'm a very monogamous person. And like, who has the time? Also, like, I have nothing against like poly people. I think it's perfectly fine if you're into that, but like, I do not know how anyone has the time to do that. It sounds like a lot. Like, I don't know how I would, if I had pursued that, I don't know how I would have like gotten on Tinder, I guess, and like searched out someone when I lived with like a long-term partner. I don't know. I distinctly remember having that conversation. We were folding laundry in our living room, and this is when we were still living in the grill with our friend. And our friend was like home. We were having this conversation like in the living room, and our friend like poked out her head and was like, "Are you guys really having this conversation right now?" It was like very funny. It was a very sitcom moment. Of course, now looking back, I'm like, was she trying to get me to break up with her? I'm not like, was she pushing me away? I'm still like, it has been 4 years since this breakup, and I'm still like, what was happening there? So it just seemed like she was kind of not feeling it. And I was still totally into it. I was like, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this woman. I want to get married and have kids. And I thought we had like established that like way back in college. Like, just things seemed like really rocky. Like, I remember we usually spent like a lot of time together, like after work, we would cook together, eat dinner together, watch TV together, whatever. But then eventually, like I wanted to spend time in the bedroom, and she was in the living room, or I was in the living room and she was in the bedroom. Like, it just seemed like we didn't really want to spend that much time together anymore. And I, again, am dumb when it comes to relationships. And I just thought it was like a rough patch, or just she was not knowing what she wanted to do with her life, what her next move was.
I mean, I don't think that's dumb. You probably just like, if she wasn't communicating what she felt, then how are you supposed to know?
Yeah. And I remember we got into like a really bad argument right before Thanksgiving. And like, it seemed like I could feel, but I did not want to admit to myself that she did not love me anymore, or she was less in love with me. It's not a great feeling to feel that way, but I couldn't I couldn't process it. Like, I didn't think to myself, I never thought to myself, like, this relationship should end because I don't feel like this person loves me anymore. Like, I never once thought that. And that, of course, only made me want to, like, cling onto her tighter. Like, I wanted to, like, cuddle more before bed. Like, I wanted to, like, spend more time together. I just, like, it made me kind of want to hold on to this thing that was slipping through my fingers. And eventually her job ended, and she started dog walking in Chicago in November, which is, freezing cold. So she was just not happy. She had no idea what she wanted to do with her life. I was like job searching for her, and she applied to some things. And then eventually she told me that this was like this is right before Christmas. So this is like end of November, beginning of December. She said, "Hey, I'm going to quit my dog walking job, and I'm going to go home over the holidays." Her parents lived in Florida. So she's like, "I'm going to go to Florida. I'm going to quit my job here in Chicago. I'm going to go home to Florida, and I'm just going to like apply to jobs there and just like really spend time with my family. And I'll be back in Chicago once I get a job and in the new year." And I believed her. Even though she bought a one-way plane ticket to Florida, and she like, packed up her suitcase and she was like leaving the apartment to like go catch her cab to go to the airport. And I just remember like wanting to like hug her one last time before she left, and she just kind of like brushed me off. And I just like felt bad. Like that whole holiday break, I just knew something was wrong.
Were you guys still like talking like regularly while you were doing the long distance thing?
Yeah. Like we talked on the phone pretty often, like we texted. And then I remember on New Year's Eve, I was like at Barnes and Noble, and her birthday's in January, so I bought a book for her. And I called her. I was like, "Hey, so are you going to be back in Chicago by your birthday? Because I would really like to give you your birthday present." And she said, "We'll talk about that later." And I was like, "Oh." And then that night I went to a New Year's Eve party at my friend's, one of my high school friends' place, and I got drunk, and I was kind of like sitting on the floor, like really drunk. And I was like, "Guys, I don't think I have a girlfriend anymore." And all of my friends were like, "Oh, you're fine. Like, she's just, she's going to come back to Chicago. Da, da, da." And they were just really trying to reassure me. And then I came back to Chicago, and I remember having dinner with my friend, one of my friends, one of my college friends, and he said, he was like, "You just need to like call her and be like, what's going on? When are you coming back?" And I was like, "Yeah, we really do need to like have that conversation." And then the next night she called me, and I remember ranting to her about work for like 20 minutes. And then finally she said those horrible words, "We need to talk." And I said, "Okay, what do we need to talk about?" And she said, "I'm not coming back to Chicago." And like, I don't remember what happened after that. Honestly, I think I've blocked that out. I remember we both cried for like 2 hours on the phone together. And then I don't think she ever said, I think she said, after she said, "I'm not coming back to Chicago," and I said, "What does that mean for us?" And I think she said, "We're over," or like, "We're done with," or something like that. And I don't remember anything else. And it was just awful. It was the most like soul shattering experience of my life. So like then we had to like figure out details, right? Like the next day I like we had to figure out, is she like, when is she going to come back and get her stuff? Like, and I remember texting her the next day, and I was like, "What did I do wrong? Like, did I do something wrong? Like, what did I do? How can I fix this?" And she said, "You did nothing wrong. This is just, it's me. It's not you." She came back to Chicago like 2 weeks later to get all her stuff. And it was really weird because I hadn't seen her. She had broken up with me, but we like had dinner together that night together. Like, she texted me like what was in the fridge that she could eat, like when I was still at work. And then I came home and she was there, and we ate like pizza together. It was the worst. It was so weird. And then we got into a fight, of course, and we cried. And then we like watched an episode of Parks and Rec. And then she like slept on the couch while I slept in the bedroom. It was like the weirdest, worst, funniest thing. Oh, so she told me, yes, the most important thing. So she told me while we were having dinner that night that she had applied for this farm apprenticeship farmer program in like middle of nowhere, Oregon. I still don't know the timeline of this, but it seemed like she already knew she was going to do this when she left our apartment to go to Florida.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, I wonder if she did it like a few months before this, like applied and just didn't tell you.
I think that is probably what happened. Or farms work very quickly, I'm not sure. It seems to me that she had already applied and then bought a one-way plane ticket to Florida. It was just the betrayal is really what still sticks with me. Even, this is 4 years ago. This is at the beginning of 2016. It's not just that she broke up with me. Obviously, that was like heartbreaking enough. It was the way she did it.
Yeah, it just seemed like she blindsided you.
Absolutely. Like, I distinctly remember thinking, like, I am never going to see this person again. Ever. In person. And I can't express how upset I was. I was just like, I was so sad. I like cried. We hugged. I waved at her while like she was standing on our back porch. It was of course freezing because it was Chicago in January. And I like walked down to my car and I just like sat in my car and cried for 2 hours. I called my dad, cried to him. I was just like, it was like almost even worse than the actual breakup because then we actually like saw each other in person and I was like, we are broken up. I'm never seeing this person again. Probably. Definitely.
I just wonder, I mean, she just sounds like she was very lost and was just trying to like figure out her purpose.
It was just like absurdly heartbreaking. Like not just regular heartbreaking, like extra extreme heartbreaking.
So do you know if she's still out there?
Yeah, so this is interesting. She actually we like tried to be friends for like 6 months after our breakup, mostly because we had to like talk about, like I had to remind her to pay her half of the rent. I had still some things of hers that she forgot in our apartment that I shipped back to her parents, and I made her pay for the shipping. And like things like that. And just like sometimes we would just like talk about, just like catch up and stuff. But then after like 6 months, I was like, I can't talk to her anymore. This is too painful. So that was like part of the reason I moved back to Houston. So I was in this apartment. The lease was up in like June or July. I didn't like my job anymore. It was too stressful and just, it's a lot being in charge of a newspaper, a weekly newspaper. Like a bunch of my friends were leaving Chicago. And I was like, I think the universe is trying to tell me to go back to Houston. I had been independent for like 7 years. And then I was like back home with my parents who were like, text us when you get to wherever you're going. If I like wanted to go out with my friends, it was just such a different existence. So it was a bit of an adjustment, but it was like really good to be home because my sister was also living at home because she had just graduated from college and she had just gotten a job in Houston. I mean, it's very good to have that kind of support system because I like arrived at my parents' house. I was unemployed because I had quit my job. I was like, I'm just going to take some time to like go home, recharge, sleep, just really like be able to be sad. That summer was basically like the summer of my mom trying to get me and my sister to not be depressed. Like she would like pull me out of bed at like 10 a.m. every day and be like, let's go on a walk. Let's go to the gym. Like, even though my mom does not accept the fact that I'm gay, she's good for times of crises.
So when was the last time you talked to your ex?
So we didn't talk for like a while. Like after I moved back to Houston, which I was also like very sad about because I was like, what if I gave up on Chicago? What if like, I don't know, I like anthropomorphized Chicago like a lot. I sent her some stuff so even after I moved, I had already sent her a box of stuff. But then like I still found more of her stuff in my stuff when I moved back to Houston. So I sent her a box of stuff to her parents' house. And she paid for the shipping and she thanked me. We were like emailing. And then after that, I was just like done. I was like, I don't really want to talk to you anymore. This is too painful. I don't think we could be friends. I also saw that on Facebook that she was like maybe like dating someone else that she found on this farm. I called her farmer bitch. And of course all my friends like blatantly like just really tried to lie to me through their teeth. They looked at these photos and of course I had like screenshot and sent to them and be like, oh my God, do you think that she's dating this girl? Like, and so I like blocked her on Facebook because I was like, I can't, like I get really obsessive about like stalking people after breakups, and I didn't want to like see that anymore. I was like, this is not healthy for me. I'm just going to block her. Then it was funny because I was in Chicago like a year and a half later during Hurricane Harvey. So I missed Hurricane Harvey here in Houston because I was in Chicago for a friend's wedding, and I was staying in our old apartment building. And then she texted me. She was like, hey, like, I heard about Hurricane Harvey. Like, are you okay? Are you and your friends and family okay? And I hadn't heard from her in over a year. And I was just like, yeah, we're fine. I'm actually in Chicago right now, funnily enough. And I was just like, what are you up to? Even though I like didn't really care, but I was just being polite. And she was like, oh, I'm in like Olympia, Washington, and I'm on a farm there. And I was like, oh, like how is it up there? She was like, oh, it's really beautiful, and I really like the farm, but I'm having a really hard time socially. And I was just like, okay. It was a very freeing moment because I was just like, oh, like I'm done. Like I don't care. Like I don't have to care about this. Like I don't have to. She had a lot of like anxiety and depression issues, which I think I mentioned before, and she like didn't have like any friends. Like I was her friend. And it felt very like freeing in that moment. It felt very like a full circle moment. And then I didn't talk to her for several more years. And then I started following her on Instagram because Instagram knows me, and it suggested her profile to me. And then she followed me back. And I thought we were just going to like follow each other and not like interact. But then she actually DM'd me in like earlier this year, pre-COVID. In the before times, she DM'd me and was like, hey, like, do you want to like keep in touch? Like, like I'm fine if you don't want to, but I just thought I'd like offer that. And I was like, sure, I'd like to just see what's going on. So to answer your question, the last time I talked to her was like 2 days ago.
Okay, so you guys are like keeping in touch?
Yeah, very like superficial level, like, do you like your new job? Are you moving to a new farm? Like very superficial stuff. So it's like kind of weird because like that was such like a soul destroying breakup, and I'm still like it has affected me in a lot of ways. It's just like funny that we're like kind of talking now, but so I'm still like navigating that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think like talking to her is gonna just not make things worse, but do you think that, like, what's the point for you to keep in touch with her, in your opinion? Like, I know you guys were friends first, but do you think it's just gonna like make you sad?
I don't know. So now she's dating a fellow farmer, and yeah, that's weird. I've never had an ex tell me that they're dating someone else or they're dating someone new. So that's a new weird experience, but we didn't talk about it much. I was just like, I just said cool. Like I didn't like say anything. So this is like new for me. I don't think we're like friends. I wouldn't call it friends. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think we're going to like talk on the phone, and I'm certainly not going to visit her. Like, I don't want to get back together with her. No, that is not happening. I don't know if this is like a friendship or if this friendship will like evolve into anything. I don't know. So we'll see.
You just tread lightly and protect yourself, but like also I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping in touch with people. Like I feel like just do whatever you're comfortable with, and if it makes you feel good to like say hi to her sometimes, and do it. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
Yeah, and that's how I feel, and I know that like if I don't want to talk to her anymore, I can just not talk to her anymore if it's like too painful or weird.
That's very true.
Or whatever. But right now in like COVID times, this is like such a stereotype. Like everyone's texting their ex right now. In COVID times, it's like kind of nice just to like, I don't know, talk to someone who like really knows you. Right after I got laid off, I like told her that I got laid off, and she like sent me a poem, and she sent me like a link to a journalism podcast that she listens to, and said that reminded her of me, and it just like, my heart just kind of, it was just like the most her way of cheering me up. And I was just like, man, you really know me. And you have we have not seen each other in 4 years. And you like still know what exactly to send me.
That is pretty wild that like someone knew you that well, and it's. I mean, she'll probably always know like a part of you and be a part of you, no matter what.
It's really weird knowing that you knew everything about someone and they knew everything about you, but you like don't really talk anymore. Like
that's why relationships are just so weird in general, because especially if they end, because it's like that person was such a big part of your life for so long, and then like it just ends, and then it's like, well, see you later. It's good, nice knowing you.
Well, yeah, and then it's like now I have all this knowledge, like random facts about you in my brain that I can't get rid of. Like, what am I supposed to do with all of this?
So do you have any advice for people who are in a similar situation that you were in when you guys broke up?
I guess my advice would just be to ask more questions. I did ask her the next day. I texted her. I was like, was this my fault? What did I do wrong? Blah, blah, blah. And she actually did reassure me. She was like, this is not you. You didn't do anything wrong. This is just something I have to do. But like, for some reason, I didn't internalize that and like really blamed myself. I think really, yeah, asking, and I'm a very curious person and I'm a journalist and I'm used to asking questions, but for some reason when it comes to like breakups, I just like don't ask enough questions about like, why did you make this decision? What was the timeline of this decision? When did you stop loving me? When did you decide to apply for this farming job? Why did you buy a one-way plane ticket home? Like just ask questions. And then also as the person who is breaking up with someone, like really spell it out. Like, be better. People just need to be better at breakups. I
agree. That's very true. And not do it over the phone. Try to do it in person.
Yeah, don't do it over the phone. Don't do it on like a weeknight when you know they have to work the next day. Like just like do it in person. Be nice about it. Be like, I will answer any of your questions. Like, let's talk about this, whatever. Like, just like treat others the way you would like to be treated.
Yeah, and just be an adult about it. Don't be, I mean, I know it's a scary thing, but
like, don't be shitty about it. Like, break up with someone the way you would like to be broken up with. And I'm pretty sure my ex would have not liked to be broken up with over the phone.
What did you learn from this relationship?
Oh my God. So many things. I mean, I learned what like love is. I learned like how to be in a long-term partnership and that I'm like pretty good at it. I'd like to think. I just learned like everything. Like we were together for like the first 5 years of our 20s, like just like how to be like a person in the world. I need to learn when something doesn't feel great or something feels off to talk about it, to be like, hey, this feels off to me. Why is that? Or just to like break it off with someone who like doesn't love you anymore, you think doesn't love you anymore, or it just doesn't feel right anymore. I am bad at recognizing when it doesn't feel great for me anymore, and I just like let it keep happening.
I'm very similar in that way, actually. And I was like that in my last relationship, so I feel you there. I think it's easy to bend over backwards for someone when you love them, and it's good that you recognize that, and hopefully we'll learn from that for your next relationship, because I think it's important to ask the tough questions, even if it sucks. I think you just need to not be scared of a relationship ending, and that's very easier said than done. That's like so easy to say, but I feel like that's the lesson I've learned in like my relationships, is I just need to like be okay with being alone if this isn't the right one, kind of a thing.
I think because we were roommates and friends and then lovers, and we're together for such a long time, like I just kind of like assumed she knew what I needed. And she did to an extent, because like we just knew each other really deeply. But like I have carried that into relationships with people I've met like in online dating, where it's like, I don't know you, like you don't know me. I have to like communicate what I need and like what I want from you, and what like you're not like, people aren't mind readers.
So last question, what's your life like now, and kind of who are you today compared to who you were when you were with your ex?
I actually have said this. I've realized this and said this quite a bit since then. It's like that breakup was like the worst and best thing that ever happened to me, because like I moved back to Houston. I'm near my family. I got a great job. Like after 4 months of being unemployed and living with my parents, I got an awesome job at a magazine here. And it was just like my dream job. and I know more of what I want and who I want to be with and who I want to be in a relationship. I am single right now, but I'm more comfortable with it. It was really hard after that first breakup, because it was my first real breakup, and we were together for 5 years, and we lived together, and we did like everything together. It was hard, like getting used to like going grocery shopping alone, or like cooking alone, or like just doing things alone. And now I'm just I'm just super into being by myself and being really independent and doing doing what I want when I want.
Well, thanks so much for joining me. This was great.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this. This is really cool and interesting.
I think the main takeaway I'd like everyone to have from this episode with Nicki is to break up with someone the way you would like to be broken up with. Breakups are the worst, especially if you've been with a person a really long time. If you're thinking about ending a relationship, make sure you know the reason why you're doing it, and be honest, but not brutal. Give the person you're breaking up with the respect they deserve, and give them a chance to ask questions, because that's what you would want if you were the one being broken up with. Obliterate Podcast is produced by me, Christine Nikolic. Special thanks to Diala for providing the theme music. Please follow Obliterate Podcast on Instagram. And if you have any questions, feedback, or are interested in being a future guest, feel free to email me at obliteratepodcast@gmail.com. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share this podcast with your friends and family. And thanks so much for listening. My name's Christine Nikolic, and this is Obliterate Podcast.